Hi, everybody. Welcome to Away Games, the Chicago Cubs podcast. I'm Kevin McCaffrey. That's Adam Amawala in week 2. What's up, Adam?
Oh, not too much. Just went to Yankees game last week, went to Mets opening day, and the Cubs are still above 500. I
Mm-hmm.
said last week in a very jaded manner, will this be the only podcast we record this year where the Cubs are above 500? Nope. They're 6-4, baby.
Yeah, it's 6-4, and it's not. And the last game, as we record this, we're recording this on Tuesday morning. The last game was against the Tampa Bay Rays, and they're good. The Rockies aren't good, but as everyone's saying, it's you are happy to take a split in Colorado, so that's fine too. I think I now I'm wondering what you would set the over under on for how many weeks the Cubs will be over 500 for this year. And now I think last week it was like 1.5 was maybe what you were thinking. And now I'm thinking maybe something like 5.5.
I'm gonna keep being optimistic until
Yeah.
they force me not to be. This is certainly. We'll talk about all of this in more depth, but this is a team that I have to say is doing things differently than Cubs teams in the past that have frustrated us, and the early results of that are somewhat fun to watch. To see a team that makes a lot of contact and is hitting well and not striking out constantly. All of these things are good. Seiya Suzuki has continued to be unbelievable. If there's any beef that I have over the past week, it's that splitting in Colorado. Okay, fine. Colorado is not a real place. You'll take it.
Yeah.
Splitting in Pittsburgh, not so great. You
Yeah.
gotta in a 2-game set, you really want to take both in Pittsburgh. But in general, if you play 500 on the road, you probably still have a shot to do some things, unless you're terrible at home, which the Cubs are not historically. So, if you told me, you guaranteed me right now, the Cubs will be 500 on the road this whole year, do you take it or do you not take it? I would take it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, if you're 500 on the road, you're an actual playoff contender. That
Right.
is, especially with the extended playoffs this year. We'll tell you right now to follow us on Twitter at Away Games Pod, where we put clips up of this, and then we're just tweeting about the games as they happen all the time. But yeah, I mean, like I think what we're seeing is a team that will be genuinely annoying to other teams,
Mm-hmm.
and will I think it's weird because you might get somewhere similar or likely lesser than I still think than you got in recent years. I think this year should be better than last year. Ultimately, looking at what the team is right now, and but also unsure of what exactly the sell off at the deadline will entail. But it could be better than last year. I think it's, as you said, it's just kind of getting there different ways, because it's interesting to see the Cubs as of yesterday. I don't know if it's still the case, but we're leading the majors in average in on base
Yeah.
and OPS, I think is what the thing was. Which, if that's the case at the end of the year, I mean, that's obviously a playoff team. But the way they're constructed is constructed in a way that can almost underplay its OPS in a bizarre way, because the high contact, low speed quotient of this team is just built for double playing off your guys all the time.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's but what we're getting is a lot of games where the Cubs are sort of putting up a consistent number of a certain amount of runs that exist, whereas when it was the more swing and miss team, we would have more like 9 spots but more zeros and ones.
Right. It's like it's somehow less frustrating. Obviously, the double plays are rough, and I believe the Rockies Twitter account was actually having some fun bragging about the 5 double plays they turned in a
Hmm.
loss. So good job at Rockies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think in years past, when the emphasis has been on, oh, we're too much of a swing and miss team, it's all power or nothing. I feel like there have been times where there's a runner on third and nobody out, and the Cubs just couldn't get that run in.
Mm-hmm.
And I would pick this Cubs team to somehow get that runner from third in over recent Cubs teams. I'm not patting Hoyer on the back for constructing a team with essentially no power,
Mm.
but in terms of that specific skill, I do like what we're seeing from this group. And as much as some of us Cubs fans are somewhat disillusioned, like these guys want to win as much as anybody.
Yeah.
This team is not going out there saying, "Hey, we're going to win 74 games and be happy with that." Like they're competing, and that's what we want.
No, yeah, and we root for all these guys, root for everybody on this team, absolutely, and and there's fun guys to watch. Obviously, Seiya Suzuki just won National League Player of the Week, which is which is high up in the who cares awards list, I guess, but like also it's fun. He had a really good week, and watching it's hard to take a lot from a 10 game sample, but watching the way Seiya Suzuki plays and matching it up with what his numbers were in Japan, where he was a guy who walked as much as he struck out, he didn't swing and miss much. It looks extremely sustainable, knock on wood.
Right.
It's easy it's easy power under control, and he's in the 99th percentile of not chasing out of the zone, which is incredible. And it just looks like a legit, star level player right now, who's also sprint speed is up in the 95th percentile. He's putting up crazy numbers running to first and even getting to second when he was thrown out at second, popping up off the base yesterday. Like, the guy can really move.
Yeah, he still beat the throw. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's
it's been really encouraging.
And he's sort of and in terms of the power, the lack of power on this team, it's Seiya Suzuki has clear actual power, that there's real power there. Schwindel hit his second homer yesterday, and Patrick Wisdom looked completely lost, which he did for much of the second half last year, and then got hot in the last few days, and now his overall stat line is very good. He's slugging over 500 like that. You hit 6 doubles and a bomb in 3 days, and you're good, basically.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the home run, we're recording this on Tuesday. The home run last night was an absolute mammoth shot that, according to that little thing they used to show how the wind impacts the ball, would have been onto the street in ordinary circumstances. So I'll be honest with you, I don't know how you felt about it. I was ready, as Wisdom was really scuffling, to be like, we need to maybe get this guy down to AAA for some regular at bats. Like, I was concerned about Wisdom. Did you feel that way also?
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's not just the beginning of this season with Wisdom. It's he was the in the run to the end of last year for weeks. He was just striking out 1 out of every 2 at bats, basically, and
Right.
striking out the same way over and over. He got the vast majority of his offensive production came in the first half of his playing time last year. So it wasn't just the first week. I don't think that's an overreaction, because he was coming off that sort of all the same holes that he showed in the second half last year. But also when you have Jonathan VR, who is, it's weird because he's a little older, but he's not even that much older than the guys like Schwindel or Wisdom. He's just been successful in the major leagues for longer. He is a couple years older, but VR's been playing very well, obviously. And so trying to find him a spot, it's obviously he would slide in there where Wisdom would a lot. And then looking at this team, it's a weird situation where when Andrelton Simmons comes back, does he ever play? I don't want him to, really,
I guess defensive replacement late.
Yeah, which seems like $4 million for a late defensive replacement on this team. I mean, $4 million should be nothing to the Cubs, but the way they acted this offseason and recent off seasons, that seems like more than you would think they'd commit to that. And VR's slid in there to play some shortstop a little bit already. So, yeah, it's just like, it's not necessarily star level guys, but it's enough guys that are like, okay, it's a team full of pretty clear-cut major league contributors, at least.
Right. Well, it's like the Cubs are trying to moneyball it, kind of, right? It's like, hey, let's just throw together a bunch of people who all have skills that might complement each other, and maybe we can win in different ways. And it's interesting, as we've been talking, I was doing some quick math on my phone. Like, you hear 6-4, and obviously if you're a Cubs fan, you feel good about that after 10 games, especially remembering 2019 when, what did they start, 0-7 or something like that? Like, it's always good to get off to a good start. But in your head, 6-4, you're like, all right, we're barely above 500. If you play 6-4 baseball for a full season, you win 97 games.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Cubs are going to win 97 games, but I am saying that there is a chance, as we've alluded to, that if things break right, the Cubs might contend in an otherwise pretty lackluster division. So I would say this. I feel about as good as I could feel after 10 games, as
Yeah.
compared to what I expected.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it seems like I don't think this is going. I don't think the team, even if they're not winning at this clip, which I don't expect them to, but I don't think they're going to be embarrassing or unwatchable. I don't think this is going to end up as one of the couple of worst teams in the league. I think, if I was betting right now, I would say a touch under 500. It was
Right.
somewhere in the mid 70s win total, which is how I felt before too. And it's weird because this is the team always changes from the beginning of the year to the end, but this team will probably change quite a bit in terms of what happens at the deadline and in terms of who's coming up. And I mean, in terms of guys who are going to be coming up from the minors at some point, I think the two that I think of off the top of my head that are most likely to be impact people are Brennan Davis is going to come up at some point, which is weird because the Cubs do have 100 outfielders.
Right.
So it's, there would have to be a sort of corresponding couple of moves in there somewhere, which is fine. If Brennan Davis is who you expect him to be, you don't worry about moving people for him. That's
Right. That
he
could
just
be like
plays.
a, Hermosillo becomes the odd man out, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, Hermosillo, Ortega, I mean, basically, I would love to see Clint Frazier get more at bats than he's been getting
Yeah.
so far. That's been like one mild disappointment, but obviously Ian Happ's been great, Seiya's been great. And those are, so you feel like those two guys are going to get the regular playing time, and then center field and DH are the other two. So Brennan's going to come up at some point, and then Caleb Killian, I think, is the starter who you most expect to join the rotation later this year. But when we're talking about guys who are going to fill the spots in the starting rotation, what about Mr. Long reliever who's been dominating so far, Keegan Thompson?
I mean, he's been unbelievable. I think he's a guy that you've been high on probably for even longer than I have. But yeah, you tweeted it last night from the At Away Games pod account, and he's a bulldog. He has that sort of mentality where he does not seem afraid of anything. I'm not implying that he
Mm-hmm.
seemed afraid last year, but he really
Yeah.
seems to be settling into to what he could be. I did see a response saying like, oh, don't mess with what we have. He's good in this role.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could see the case for that, but I think when you've got a guy who has the ability to be stretched out and has looked as good as he has, you'd be crazy to not think about him as part of the starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, Keegan Thompson, for those who don't know, is was a pretty high draft pick in the first, not a first round pick, but I want to say second or third. But he came from Auburn, which is a big time program. He was a full on starter there his whole run. And if we're talking about, I'm absolutely the value he's brought by just hopping and piggybacking with Steele, and then yesterday taking over for Hendricks and just shutting the Rays down completely for several innings. Like, yeah, I mean, that's a great weapon out of your bullpen if you have someone who can do that. Absolutely. It's the old school, the old Andrew Miller thing from, when Andrew Miller sort of was the first reliever in a while doing that for Cleveland back in 2016. Yeah, that's big value, but the Cubs do not have a set starting rotation going forward into the future. Drew Smiley's been amazing. He's let up 0 runs so far, so he's been great. But I do not expect Drew Smiley to be a part of this team by the end of the year. And when we talk about guys leaving guys in the role that was good for them, Justin Steele was an absolute dominant reliever. And we brought him into the rotation because a starter is more valuable than a reliever. And so, yeah, I'm not pushing to bring Keegan into the rotation this minute, but like I think you have to think about it down the line this year.
Right, and I think that is more apparent now because the Cubs are kind of shorthanded rotation wise. Like it seems
Yeah.
like Wade Miley is getting closer, but essentially the Cubs are just putting pieces together to get through a 5-man rotation at this point, or hoping for the occasional off day where
Mm-hmm.
they don't need 5. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do with him. What are your thoughts on the rotation in general? I mean, obviously we saw Stroman struggle in Colorado, probably because people talk too much about how great he was in Colorado.
Sure.
And also Hendricks, surprisingly last night at Wrigley, where he's usually dominant, had some struggles. What is your level of concern with those two guys?
I'm like Stroman, pretty zero concern right now. He had one really good start, one weird start in Colorado, like you said, which you almost just throw out. And I thought Hendricks' stuff looked pretty good to me yesterday. He just didn't fully have. It seemed like he just didn't fully have command of it. Anytime that Hendricks is walking the leadoff hitter and then walking the 9 hitter on 4 pitches, he's just not quite right, I think. But the stuff looked good. He was getting swing and misses. And by the way, yesterday, I know it's a different topic, but Wilson Contreras, if you've watched the game recap, almost every strikeout was a pitch Contreras was stealing a strike on.
Literally, the only beef I have with Wilson last night was he did that thing that he's been known to do, where instead of just holding a strike 3, he'll just pop up and try to backpick someone. Like there was a call that I think he would have gotten had he not jumped up and whipped a ball to first base. But you know what? I'll take that. Willie gonna Willie.
Yeah, exactly. And did he throw out another runner last night, or was it the night before that? Yeah.
Oh no, it was last night, and it was. There's a great Cubs TikTok that we can retweet, but it was pretty good. Yeah, he threw someone out by like 10 feet last night.
Yeah, and it's been great to see that too. But as far as Hendricks goes, yeah, I always feel comfortable when you just want to see him really lock in a little bit and not have to get bailed out before the 5th. And he didn't get like knocked around last night, but he was walking people like he doesn't usually, so he just didn't quite have the feel. And it's cold, it's early. Hendricks is traditionally a slow starter too, so I think I'm not too worried about him either, but I think like the rest of the rotation that we've seen, you're super excited about. Like I said, Drew Smiley is putting up zeros, like 0 after 0, and Justin Steele's look very good, and I think he's going again tonight, right, as we record this.
Yeah, and the Rays are not certainly not an easy team to pitch against. I think G-Man Choi is hitting like 500. They're always kind of a tough team. Also, apparently Kevin Kiermaier's brother works for the grounds crew.
I think
that's interesting.
I think he's like the head groundskeeper, actually. I think so. Yeah, it's two very different paths to a baseball career here, but yeah, that's a fun thing. So.
Has anything else jumped out at you over the past week in terms of specific Cubs that you've been happy with? People that are a cause for concern, not getting enough playing time, like you mentioned, Clint Frazier, anything like that?
Clint Frazier's the only one that I kind of want to see getting more at bats, who's not right now. I mean, I guess you could say Michael Hermosillo too, but it's just like some of this is just it's just a weird numbers game where not everyone's going to be getting regular playing time, and that's just how it works. We saw Alfonso Rivas get sent down, and that was part of a numbers crunch, and there's going to be more of that numbers crunch coming soon because in May the rosters have to go from 28 to 26, so that means two guys have to get shipped out as it is, and Simmons is going to come back at some point. Wade Miley is going to come back, and Alec Mills. Is Alec Mills been activated yet? I know he was.
No, not yet. I don't think.
So I mean, that's 5 spots from this current team that we're going to see get bumped, either get optioned to the minors or whatever. So I mean, I think that's going to clear up some stuff. But yeah, I would like to see Clint Frazier hitting more. VR obviously has had a very hot start. And then Nick Madrigal, I think, has shown us in a week, in 10 games time, basically what you can expect from him. We've seen him strike out 3 times already, which we were told he never did. But the contact's very high, and it is. It's a lot of quiet contact. The guy's probably going to hit 300 and he's probably going to OPS under 800 somehow. It's just like, this is it. But what I do like is that Nick Madrigal yesterday, for I think the first time this year, was hitting leadoff and not second. He makes no sense as a number 2 hitter, so prone to hitting into double plays. If you use that on base at the top of your lineup, fine, or stick it at the bottom. But I do not want to see him hitting second.
I don't want to see Nick Madrigal anywhere other than 1, 8, or 9 this whole season.
Yeah, 1, 8, and 9 all makes sense to me. So I think that's fine. Which is where I used to hit when I played baseball up through the very beginning of the end of middle school or high school.
I tell you what, I had my opening day for softball last week. Great game. I started in left field, caught everything, went 2 for 3 with two out RBIs. I was feeling great.
Clutch.
And
yeah.
You know what? Yesterday, made an error in the first inning that opened the goddamn floodgates. Runners on second and third, 2 outs. There was a line drive that kind of like whiffled at me, dropped it. Whole inning got out of hand. I went 0 for 3 with 3 pop outs. Just brutal.
That's very
Brutal.
tough. You had a Chris Bryant in left field day. He had that with against the Dodgers when he
Yeah.
dropped the fly ball that led to the runs for the Dodgers.
It's no worse feeling.
Yeah.
I feel terrible playing in a game of no consequence. I can't imagine what that would feel like
Yes.
as a major leaguer. But back to Nick Madrigal. Question for you: if you were gonna bet over under Nick Madrigal 1.5 hits tonight against the Rays, where might you do that?
I would do that at DraftKings, I guess, and I would want to get whenever I'm betting on any sort of gambling app. I try not to just go straight bets. I try to find a little bonus to try to turn the tables
Mm.
to turn the tables from the house to the man. And you can do that a little bit if you use the promo code Away Games when you sign up for DraftKings in Illinois.
Absolutely. You can sign up at DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook, which is live in the land of Lincoln. Once again, you can bet just $5 on any team of your choice and get $200 in free bets instantly. And you can use those free bets for any sorts of fun parlays you might want to do. You can use those to make some fun prop bets, which is, in my opinion, the most fun part about sports gambling. But make sure to use promo code Away Games at DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook.
Nice. On my list of things to talk about, the only thing I had left was talking about how much I'm enjoying what this bullpen probably is. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
several keepers out of this bullpen, and I like Scott Efros had when he was in Colorado, he gave up a couple of really soft contact hits before he was pulled for Michael Rucker, who then gave up a bomb to Ryan McMahon. But man, I'm really enjoying watching Scott Efros pitch weird from that side angle, and I think that's a real bullpen guy.
Yeah, I mean, Efros is a really uncomfortable at bat. I think Michael Givens is a really uncomfortable at bat, given his
Yes.
mechanics and the angle that he's coming from. And you made the point, I think, on our Twitter, but David Robertson is like really weirdly Mark Pryor-ish. Like something
Yeah.
about his, like even his face and just his whole look and his mechanics,
The
and the high
socks.
socks, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting to watch. But he's been great, and early on, arguably my best waiver wire pickup in fantasy this year.
Very nice. Yes. And we made that Mark Pryor comp day one. I want to say I saw that I was getting passed around Twitter yesterday, but yeah, he's also got those early 2000 sideburns that I had. Like he's bringing a lot to the table. Pryor
He needs
wise.
that puka shell necklace to complete the whole look.
Yes, absolutely. Frost those tips, David Robb. And it's fun that we go Roberts to Robertson. Might be a good number of
Yeah.
eighth to ninth innings at some point. Ethan didn't, had a little bit less good of a game in Colorado, but I don't know if people saw, but the movement on Ethan Roberts' slider, the horizontal movement, is clocked in at literally the most in Major League Baseball. So that's pretty fun to have back there too. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's mostly what I had for Cubs stuff. Basically, if you look at the Cubs schedule upcoming, they have this series against the Rays wrapping up, and then who do they have after that? I had this up a minute ago. Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't. Man, I'm living in the moment with this Cubs team. Let's see.
Try not to look too far ahead. I understand.
Yes.
I understand.
Well, we've
yeah,
got it goes Tampa to
yeah.
Pittsburgh. So it's yeah.
Yeah. So again, I think these are continuing to be some winnable games here for the Cubs. Again, Pittsburgh, you really need to win games against Pittsburgh. There's no other way to say it. But yeah, I think looking at the upcoming schedule, the Cubs, the one thing that's tough is that there are not a lot of off days anytime soon. They have one coming up next week. But that's I assume a little tough.
Yeah, before the game, all that's happening before we podcast again is a 4-game series at home against Pittsburgh and 2 more against Tampa Bay. So I mean, that's Tampa's obviously extremely tough, but this is a pretty soft opening schedule. Really, it's like 4 games against Milwaukee and 3 games against Tampa. That's the only, then you're playing with 6 games against Pittsburgh in your opening month is pretty soft.
Right. And that's one where, like, especially at Wrigley, you really, 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 if you're a team that's going to try to contend in this division, you got to take 3 out of 4
Yeah,
against Pittsburgh at home. Because after that, if you look at the Cubs'
it's
schedule, not to get too
nasty.
far ahead of
Yeah.
ourselves, it's rough. I mean, the following 6 games after that are 3 at Atlanta, 3 at Milwaukee, then 2 at home against the White Sox, kind of an early
Hmm.
above ground subway series, if you want to call it
Yes,
that.
L.
And then you have the Dodgers and the Padres. So I mean, you've got 5 straight opponents, none of whom are going to be easy. And that, I think, will be the true test of, like, okay, is this team actually capable of competing and playing decent baseball against better teams? Because it has been quite a soft open to the 2022
Yeah,
season.
right. March 26th through April 26th through May 11 is basically all against winning teams with championship aspirations. So without a break. So if you're talking about over under Cubs 500 being over 500 weeks of the year, that could
Yeah.
be, we should really know after that, because then it softens up a lot. So the first half of May is very end of April, first half of May very tough, middle of May very winnable. So yeah, man. Do you have any?
Yeah,
Do
and
you?
look, when
Yeah.
when we record this next week, I was just gonna say, if when we record this next Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it may be, the Cubs damn well better be above 500, because
Mhm.
when you have a 4 game set against Pittsburgh,
Uh-huh.
at this point, realistically, you got 2 games against Tampa left.
Hmm.
Hopefully, win at least one of those, and then again, you gotta, at the very least, you gotta split against Pittsburgh. You really should be winning 3 or 4 of those games. What were you gonna ask?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, do you have any travel plans to see the Cubs play at any away games yourself this year?
Well, at the moment, the main plan involves taking a subway to see the Cubs play an away game at Yankee Stadium.
In
Thus far,
June.
I have purchased tickets to the Friday and Saturday game,
Nice.
and then a friend of mine is getting married on that Sunday, which is really rude if
It's
you think about
it's
it. I
rude.
mean,
At
he
least they
he
pushed it
had
to
to, he
Sunday.
had to know that the Cubs were playing the Yankees that weekend. So planning for that.
Hmm.
As we've alluded to before, the Cubs don't play the Mets until September, and if the Cubs are out of it and the Mets are good, I feel like I'm going to get annoyed going to those games.
Sure.
I'm sure I will go.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't have any plans to go to Wrigley. I'm hoping that I will be able to figure that out. And then the other ones that are on my radar, I've never been to Cincinnati. That's one of the 9
Hmm.
stadiums that I have not been to. So I'm thinking of doing. It lines up where the U.S. Open series that leads up to the tennis U.S. Open happens in Cincinnati at the same time the Cubs are there. So I might do a little, like, weekend, do one day at a tennis tournament, one day at whatever the hell it's called. What is
Sure.
it? Yeah, I don't even know what it's called anymore. Great American? I don't know. Synergy? Who the hell knows?
Yeah, I don't.
Um,
I also don't know. I think Great American is what we will. It's at least, if it's not
yeah,
what it is now, that's what I will
right.
always think of it as. So
And then
yeah,
Toronto. Toronto's the other one that's kind of caught my eye. That's the last week in August. When
nice.
the Cubs, because I've never been to Toronto. It just seems like a fun place to go. But I feel like there's less urgency knowing that the schedule in a couple of years is going to change, where the Cubs will play there pretty much every year.
Yeah,
And
we're
then kind
if
of
people
bounce
don't
whenever
know,
they go.
that's one of the rule changes. Is it seems like we're moving to a schedule where every team plays every team every year. So
And I don't mind
whatever.
that. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of cool, and hopefully we'll give people a chance to see more of the players that they don't see as regularly. And that was one other thing that I wanted to bring up. Well, first of all, tell me where you're planning to go. Do you have any specific Cubs related travel plans?
I'm gonna be in LA within days of when they're playing the Dodgers, and I've kept missing them there. So there's a slight chance that I would be doing shows in LA late July like 7th through the 10th is when they're doing that. But otherwise in the I've never been to Philadelphia, so go see basically what I
Oh,
wanted the Cubs offense to be with Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber and Nick
when do
Castellanos.
the Cubs play them?
That is going to be July 22 to 24, and I'm not booked doing stand up that weekend. So as of now, so that could be a possibility.
Well, maybe I'll go down there with you. It's a
Yeah.
nice park, but you got to be careful down there because those fans are mean. I
Hmm.
saw a video of a fan throwing a Mets fan's phone onto the outfield grass. So
Yeah,
Don't do
that's
that. Don't do
no.
that at baseball game.
No, don't do that. Yes, that's that's a good vote for not that. Cool. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. This is, as we said, once again, follow us on Twitter at Away Games Pod. We'll be live tweeting pretty much all these games. One or the other of us is usually on task for that. And yeah,
Kevin, before we wrap it up, I have one last question for
Sure.
you. Joe Madden, bases loaded, intentional walk.
Yeah.
As the Angels were losing, what are your thoughts?
It seemed dumb to me. I mean, I
Yeah,
know
was
it was Corey Seager at the plate, but Corey Seager isn't Mike Trout. Like, he's
Right.
good, but he's not Barry Bonds. He's not Mike Trout. He's not Juan Soto. Like, he's a good hitter. And you know, the Angels spent a lot of money on their bullpen this year too. So with Iglesias and Loop, and you know, they have some they brought some guys in. So no, that seemed a bit shark jumpy for me, Joe Madden wise.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people talking about, like, I saw people talking afterwards, like, oh, is Joe Madden one of the most overrated managers? No, he's not. You can't take away what he did in the past. He won the World Series with the Cubs and took the fucking Rays to the World Series before they were the cool Rays. So no, Joe Madden has a Hall of Fame resume, but that doesn't mean he's good in this moment, and maybe he's not as good anymore. We'll see. I think this is kind of the last year to see with Madden, you know, and that Angels team. So, but if he gets the Angels to the playoffs, that's another thing that no one's done in a while.
Right. And as baseball fans, I think we just deserve to see Shohei and Mike Trout in the playoffs.
Sure. Yeah.
But hopefully we'll also see Seiya Suzuki in the playoffs.
Yes.
Who knows?
Seiya, very fun. And we're saying goodbye. Thanks for listening, everybody, at Away Games Pod. Catch you later.